Most people believe that if we had more money, we'd be happier, more content. And when that graduating students reached their senior status and graduated and left college, their expectation is that they would have a minimum income, minimum wage of about $75,000 a year. There's an individual, his name is Jonathan Haidt. He wrote, "Wealth itself has only a small direct effect on happiness because it so effectively speeds up the hedonistic treadmill. As the level of wealth has doubled or tripled in the last 50 years, the level of happiness and satisfaction with life has not changed, and depression has become more common." I mean, isn't it true, the fact that the more you make, the more you spend? Which only necessitates the fact that says, hey, I need to make more money so that I can spend some more. And it never ends until we choose to just simply, hey, this is a treadmill I don't want on. It becomes a choice. And often too many people, young, middle-aged, simply believe money's necessary for happiness. And I believe that, unfortunately, most people don't come to the realization until late in life. When they look at money and go, it's good to have, but it's not essential.
Yeah.
So we're going to repeat these truths. Would you put those up there? We're going to repeat these because I asked you to repeat them last week. I told you I'd have them this morning. The first one, these are some simple truths. These are 5 truths that we're going to understand as we go through this study. The first one, repeat it with me. God owns everything. He allows me to manage some of His wealth. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Good. I cannot take treasure with me to heaven, but I can send it ahead.
Amen.
Would you agree with that truth?
Amen.
Some of you are struggling this morning already. My heart abides where I invest God's money.
Amen.
Would you agree with that truth this morning?
Amen.
I honor God where I give back to Him the first and best.
Amen.
Would you agree with that? The antidote for materialism is the joyful cycle of giving to receive is to give even more. Would you agree with that?
Amen.
Listen on that. I can see that. We're going to get to that point at some point. Because you know, when you start talking about materialism, the best way to conquer materialism is to start giving stuff away. And I'll tell you, when you start that, it is a joy to give away things that hold something to you and pass them to somebody else. We find ourselves in context with that this morning. Read with me. We're in Luke chapter 12. We're going to start in verse 15. We actually start in the middle of a conversation about a brother. 2 brothers in an argument over the inheritance. I'm going to start in verse 15. He says, then he said to them, be aware and be on your guard against every form of greed. For not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. And he told them a parable, saying, the land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, saying, what shall I do, since I have no place to store my crops? And then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your soul is required of you. And now, who will own what you have prepared? So is the man who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Read these following passages as well. And he said to his disciples, "For this reason I say to you, don't worry about your life as to what you will eat, nor for your body as to what you will put on. For life is more than food, and body more than clothing. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap. They have no storeroom nor barns, yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds? And which of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his lifespan? If then you can't even do a little thing, why do you worry about other matters? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. But I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothed the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more will he clothe you? You men of little faith. Do not seek what you will eat, what you will drink. Do not keep worrying. For all these things the nations of the world eagerly seek. But your Father knows, and he knows that you need these things. Let's pray. Dear Father, we come to you at this time, having read your word, asking you to bless, to speak to us. And Lord, I pray that this morning as we gather to fellowship and to worship, Lord, may we hear you speak to us in such a way that draws us to you. Lord, I pray that during this time, may all the distractions that, Lord, that so do easily distract us, may they not catch our attention. Lord, may we see you. May we focus upon you. And Lord, I pray that as we do, may we see the importance of how you interact with us, and may our life change today. And how you speak to us. Oh Lord, may we glorify you. For you are. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. You read that parable. That's one of those parables that you hear often as you start talking about stewardship. And it's very quickly that you start to realize, as we've made those statements, that stewardship really, we are stewards of everything that we have. If you were just to write down on a piece of paper all the things that you have, you may call them yours. You may have felt, well, I worked for them, I slaved to buy this. What do you mean it's not mine? The simple realization is that once you die, who does it belong to?
Amen.
Somebody else. And I can tell you in my instance, because I've already told my parents this, my children have already told me, all those things that you have in the shed, you need to get rid of it. Because I don't want it. You spend just an untold amount of time collecting your treasures. You put them in the shop. They collect dusts. And your children may see them as trash. Mine have already said, Daddy, when you die, we're just going to burn the house. Now, mind you, she's talking about my treasures. But it comes back to the point, we have to recognize that we really are stewards of everything. All those things that we have treasures, those things that we see as possessions, that we see as so valuable. If I were to ask you this morning to put yourself in a position that you were a manager. You're a manager at 7-Eleven. You know, at 7-Eleven they have those big Slurpees. Now, you're a manager, so you have the opportunity, per se, to just walk by that thing and get you a big Slurpee, gulp it down as fast as you can, all day long. The soda machine, those torpedoes that just sit there and roll till they're warm and perfect. You go by and just grab as many as you want. And at some point, management's not going to be happy with you. Why? I mean, you're the manager of the store, right? I mean, aren't you in charge? Can't you just decide to say, hey, I think this store should close at, let's say about 5:30, because that's when I want to go home. So you close that store at 5:30. You've set new hours. You look at the price of the milk and you say, that's too much. My kids drink a lot of milk, so it needs to be cheaper than that. Can you do that? You understand the principle. Even if you were a manager, even if you say, I have the full power to do all the things that I want to do, you can't do that. You understand the office of a steward. If I were to say, God is going to give you $1 million. I mean, if you're like me, you're excited. Butterflies are already starting to turn, thinking of the possibilities of all the things that you can do. The places you can go and see. Oh, just the relaxation of being able to take the time away and say, look, I've got all this wealth, but it's going to cost you something. We refer to it as the tithe, at 10%. Would you be willing, if God gave you $1 million just at the spot, take your checkbook out and write a tithe off of that? Would you? Some of you wouldn't even do that then, huh? I'm thinking. You want me to tell you the principle, how that applies? Do you do it now? I mean, He's given you everything. Everything that you have. Or are you willing to just say, hey, God, even though I may not have $1 million, I may only have $1 to my name. Here's a tithe off of that. He may not trust you with $1 million, but He's already trusted you very well. Now, I kind of gave you those statistics of an individual graduating college and the expectation of a minimum wage of $75,000. I'd love to have that, wouldn't you?
Amen.
But the realization is that that's not the case. But do you realize, even if you live in a household of combined income and make $50,000 or more, that you are top 2% of the world's earners. Top 2%. You heard on the news some years back of that top 2% and how... Do you feel wealthy now? You are. When you start to understand the fact that we are managers of all the things that we have, it simply comes back to the point that at some point, as a manager, we are accountable for what we do, right?
Amen.
I mean, if you're that manager of 7-Eleven, you can't just go and arbitrarily change things because you know that there are some stockholders, there is somebody ahead of you that simply says that that's not good business practice and you're not going to do it.
Right.
And yet, as we read this parable, we find this man who's productive. He's earned. He's wealthy, you might say. He looks at all the things that he has been given. He looks at his crop that has come in that year. He has had a good bumper crop the year. It rained just right. He didn't have to use those sprinklers on his field like everybody else needed to do. Man, God bless him. And when he got his crop in, the storage facilities and silos that he had at that point were too small. And he had big ones already, probably. Not big enough for this crop. Because he looks to retire. I mean, we all look to do that at one point, right? I'm going to store this up. I will have and I will be able to sit back and enjoy life. I'm going to simply eat, drink, and be merry. You saw him doing that, right? He chose to build bigger barns and store all that he had so he could just sit back and do nothing. Just enjoy life. I mean, it seems like a simple principle that we all want. It's desirable. It's that point that we say, well, that's what I want to do. And I think if we were all honest, each of us, I mean, I know I would have at one point described it, I said, oh man, I would love that. If you're starting your working career, I promise you, you're looking forward to retirement. If you're in retirement, maybe you may be going back and saying, man, if I worked harder. But nonetheless, you're where you're at. What God has given you is a bounty. God has been good to you. You know, when we consider wealth, you remember Solomon in the Old Testament was considered one of the wealthiest men in the world. To kind of put it in perspective, today's wealthy individuals we consider like Bill Gates. Bill Gates' estimated worth this week was $93.3 billion. He can spend money, just an obscene amount of money every week and never spend it. Not all of it. But when you compare that to Solomon, and you were to count just his gold, not his silver or his property or all the other things that he had, just his gold, today's value, that'd be $850 billion. Would dwarf Bill Gates. And you know what he described at the end of his life? This is what he said in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's a grievous evil which I have seen under the sun. Riches being hoarded by their hurt to their owner to his hurt. When these riches were lost through a bad investment, and he had fathered a son, and there was nothing to support him, as he had become naked from his mother's womb, so will he return as he came, and he will take nothing from the fruit of his labor that he carried. Ecclesiastes 5:13. If you're wondering where that's at, you want to read that better than I did. He just simply described, you know how you came into this world, right? Nothing. I mean, you didn't have a stitch of clothing on you. When I say nothing, that's what I mean. In fact, when you were born, you know how children are often born? They got clenched fists. They're eager to just grab hold and clinch onto something. We spend all of our life doing that. You know how we die? Clenched fists. Desperately trying to grab hold of the last few things that surround us. And yet when we die, all those things that we can touch are left right where they're at.
Amen.
Don't take them with you.
Right.
It's the foolish farmer that thought he could simply retire and enjoy life. Take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. And what we see is there's no mention of helping anybody. There's no mention of giving. I've got an excess. His motto could be described like this: mine, 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 mine. It's all his. But little did he know that that night, his last breath, he would be accountable for how he lived his life. Newspapers are filled with stories of individuals who are accountants who look and they see the fact that, well, they won't miss this little bit. Untold sums of money is embezzled every day. Why? They have the same slogan: mine, mine, mine. But you don't have to embezzle. Because if I would actually put this in kind of context with what we're reading, is the fact that if we recognize that we are stewards, and we take all of that God has given us and spend it on who? Me, mine. That's embezzlement. And we need to be reminded that we stand before Christ, and He will give an audit on us. Now, we don't think of it usually as an audit. When we think of standing before Christ, we think of saying, hey, God, you're going to reward me. As a child of yours, that's what we look forward to. That we get to stand before Him one day. Our sins have been forgiven. They were forgiven way in the past. When we stand before Him, He will look at us and say, well done. You've done all these things. Here's your reward. But what's He going to reward us at? Being a faithful steward. So the question is, your faithfulness. We all seek the desire to hear that pleasure that He bestows upon us. We want to know that He finds joy in our faithfulness. Lord, I'll give it back. I'll give it back. Why? It's all yours. Everything that we own, everything that we possess, is His.
Amen.
We started the service this morning with a simple baby dedication. Who gives children? If you simply think it's the biological aspect where two people come together and it just sprouts out of that, you don't know much. But it's God who is close to God. He's the one who gives the fruit of it. He's the one that blesses us, even with our children. It's the very aspect that we have children. We recognize that we are stewards. What about that talent that you have? You know, we opened up again this morning service to saying, hey, these are some spiritual gifts. Would you go to somebody, encourage them, but simply saying, this is how I see you using your gift to glorify God. Some of you got to hear those words. If you didn't, maybe they just didn't make it to you in time. We were short. I was telling Greg as we were standing here, there's a church that I was aware of that they just simply say, hey, we start at 10:25. He said they will not sing a note until 10:50. 30 minutes. He said we start at 10:50. They spend 30 minutes encouraging and praying for one another every Sunday. We're stewards of our talents, our abilities, how God has gifted us. He has gifted some of you with intellect that I can only dream of. He's gifted you. You're stewards. It's not always just about the finances, it's about everything. Everything that defines you as being you, God has given to you.
Amen.
So you respond to Him. You respond to Him and He gives you that magnanimous check that has so many zeros. You would if you're doing it now. You're being faithful now. So what does it mean then when we describe a steward? When we describe someone who's being faithful, how do you do that? How do you invest your wealth? What do you invest it in? I mean, we've already described, we've described it last Sunday, we've described it many times beyond this, the fact that your wealth, when you invest it, when you use that for God's purposes, it has a life that extends beyond your life. One of the ways that you can invest your wealth is in people. So, Pastor, you don't know who I'm surrounded by. Well, I'm assuming God put them there, and God knows. So that's who He wants you to invest in. People make a great investment. Because you don't know how God is working in their life. You don't know how He's talking to them. What He will do with them. You don't know that. You are just like me. Your sight is right now. I read a story this week. Every one of you, most of you, like that little thing you refer to as iPhone. I had to swallow hard when I said it. Sorry. You like that company. Did you know in the 1980 exactly, when that company went public, you know how many original founders of that company? If you say 2, you would be almost right. Those are the 2 individuals that we see and most associate with the success of the business. One of those being Steve Jobs. But did you know there weren't just 2? There were 3. There were 3 individuals in that company. One individual, you never hear about him, because as that company was going public, as he was starting to look at the things and realize the responsibility of, hey, if this company doesn't do well, I'm going to be personally responsible. I have assets, so I'm going to sell out. He had 10% of the company, by the way. 10% of that company he sold for $800. For years, it wasn't until 1993 when most of you started to like them. When they came out with that iPhone. What is a little bit past that? In fact, it was well past that. But it wasn't until 1993. For about 13 years, it just kind of did nothing. As he looked at the company, he thought, I did the right thing. I've got my $800. Don't you wish you could spend $800 a day to buy 10% of Apple? Yeah. If only he did. So as you start to invest in people, one of the things that you encourage to take place is that you encourage ministry. Ministry can be seen in all sorts of things. It goes beyond just the aspect of going to a mission trip, going to Ecuador, watching those individuals. I'll tell you, as I've been watching over the last several weeks, of photos returning from Ecuador. Because Lynn had been there for the last 20 plus days. You start to see those families, those faces that look so small the first time. They've grown up. They're teenagers. They stand, they tower. Some of them are almost 5 feet. They tower. You would understand that if you ever left. Van and Sean are giants when they go over there. They're not tall. But they've grown up. Did you know the potential? Do you realize the potential? When you see children, when we dedicated Ruby Jean, and we just taken a few moments, do you realize the potential in that life? No, none of us do. We can't see the future. All we can see is now. Ruby Jean is a child. She must be tended for. She must be cared for every moment. I mean, you have to care for every need. What about the future? If we start to invest in ministry this week, Bryce had the opportunity to lead our students throughout Boston, touch lives. You'll get to hear from one of those tomorrow. Ministry. Whether it's foreign soil, whether it's locally, or somewhere out throughout the world. Maybe your ministry is just inside this church. This is where God has placed you. This is the place that God's expected you to use the gifts that He's given you. And you have a great opportunity to do what? To invest. Invest in ministry. I'm always reminded that when we start taking and doing mission opportunities throughout the world, throughout other opportunities, some people say, well, I can't do anything. I can't go. Prayer. Prayer's needed more than money. Right? You know, there's great battles are won in prayer. Some of you are prayer warriors. You can spend unimaginable amounts of time on your knees before God, just bringing up and interceding for others. Oh, thank you. And we need to be mindful of the Father's business. Because this is what he tells us in Matthew. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. They might see Father in us. As God has made you a steward over your possessions, as you continue to just open up your hands and relinquish control of that, one of the amazing things that will come out of that is God's glory will be seen. Because why do stingy people give? They don't. Simple principle. Why would you give? So God might be glorified. You look at the world. You look at all the opportunities to raise money, to give to different needs, to different organizations. Who is the strongest giver in the world? It's the church. Why? Because we have a war. We seek to honor. We do so by doing this. What starts to take place is the treasure that once surrounded us, those things that we could reach out and touch, somehow, by the miracle of God, get transported to heaven. Those treasures. They don't corrupt. They don't wear out. They don't rust. Tarnish. They don't even diminish in value in any sort of fashion. When we arrive in heaven, we will see them. Most of them will be people. And their unimaginable wealth. God, look, that person. I didn't know I was doing something good. I used to encourage them. Told them my story. And changed their life. God, I gave. I didn't have much. But God, I gave to honor you, and in so doing, look, our church went on this mission trip. It went to that place. It touched these people I've never even met. Why? Because God is faithful to you. I wanted to honor you. Be a steward. Can you imagine the joy we get to have? And we see all the lives of people that somehow we've touched. By being faithful. By being a faithful steward. We look back, the wealth of this world truly will have no value.
Amen.
It will pass away.
Amen.
And at that moment, you'll start to understand the true measure of your wealth. So let me ask you, what's your desire? You simply look to store stuff up so that your children can come in and simply say, Dad, I'm going to burn it. It has no value to me. We say, God, use all that you have given me. Honor you in all the ways that I could do that. Whether it's through the offering, whether it's through using my talents, or just the ability to encourage, lift her. How would you be found? Maybe you're here this morning, you don't know Christ. You've heard about him, you've heard stories, you've seen and read, but you don't know him. Maybe this morning's that time. Come forward. We'll take you to a place that's quiet, and we'll share Christ with you. Describe who he is, so that you might know him like we know him. Maybe God is saying to you, speaking to you some other way this morning. Maybe he's moving you in a way that I can never imagine the ways in which he draws a crowd like this and starts to speak to their hearts and lives and draws them to respond to him. But he's calling you. He's moving you. Do you respond? However he's leading. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. As Greg comes up, as we sing this song, move.
Amen.
Move as he is moving.
Amen.
Let's pray.